Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Human Resources. My name is Chris Palmer. I'm the MLA for Kings West and the chair of the committee. Today, in addition to reviewing appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions, we will hear from the Department of Labour, Skills and Immigration and the Nova Scotia Community College regarding workforce development and retention. So at this point, I'd like to ask all in the room to please put your phones to silent, if you could, so we don't have any distractions. And I'd like to ask all of our committee members to introduce themselves and their constituency, beginning on my left with MLA Sheehy Richard.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Melissa Sheehy Richard. I'm the MLA in Hants West.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Ritzy, MLA for Truro Bible Hill, Millbrook, Salmon River.
Good afternoon. Johnny McDonald, MLA for Hants East.
Yeah, hi, welcome back. Nolan Young, MLA, Shelburne.
Good afternoon, everyone. Susie Hanson, MLA for Halifax Needham.
Gary Burrell, Halifax Shabukto.
MLA Ali Duale, Halifax Armdale.
Hi, Fred Tilley, MLA Northside Westmount.
Thank you, everyone. And for the purposes of Hansard, I also want to recognize the presence of Legislative Counsel Kellyanne Schlemmer to my left and Legislative Committee Clerk Judy Kavanagh to my right. So before we get into our discussion this afternoon with our guests, our committee will attend to our normal business of reviewing and approving candidates for agencies, boards, and commissions and appointments. So we'd like to ask you just to indulge us for a few minutes while we do our committee business here. And I'll look for a motion from MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Agriculture, under Nova Scotia Crop and Livestock Insurance Commission, recommend Courtney Mayer for member and John Visser for member and designated chair. I move.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Mr. Chair, for the Department of Community Cultures, Tourism and Heritage, for the Halifax Regional Library Board, I move to recommend Jan Jensen as member.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Economic Development, Peggy's Cove Commission, I move to recommend Peter Haslett and Judy Daphne for member and Nicole Campbell for member and designated chair.
Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Environment and Climate Change, under Roundtable on Environment and Sustainable Prosperity, I move to recommend Louise Diesel, Jeff McClellan, Michael Raymond, Chigoki Imeki, Steve McClellan, Elsa Oberman, Juanita Spence as members.
Okay, the motion on the table is your discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Finance and Treasury Board, Nova Scotia Credit Union Department Insurance Corporations, I move to recommend Michael McIsaac, Jason Rose, and Rick Parker as member.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Labour, Skills and Immigration, for Board of Directors of the Workers' Compensation Board of Nova Scotia, I move to recommend Janet Hazelton, Blair Richards, Jenna Brookfield, and Tim McGinnis as all member and worker representatives.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. MLA Tilley.
Just a quick question on the areas that are represented, where are all these folks from? Do we have that information?
MLA McDonald.
Well, I can help you, Mr. Chair. In the attachments, we would have received all of their detailed, which are all confidential on their stuff, would have detailed anything. It's not here. It's in the package we received from the committee or from the committee clerk. I don't have them in front of me, so I can't comment on to it at this point. And I'm not actually sure if I would be permitted to, as everything would be confidential.
Thank you, MLA McDonald. We'll go back to the vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Natural Resource and Renewable, for the Board of Examiners under the Scalers Act, move Dennis Bullock, member Sawmill Representative. Move to recommend Dennis Bullock, member Sawmill Representative, and Mike Masters, member Small Private Land Tenure, not an operator of a sawmill or pulp mill.
Thank you, MLA McDonald. Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. And MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And last but not least, for the Department of Service Nova Scotia Film Classification Board, I move to recommend Randy Hum, Sherry Norton Brunel, Sharon Taylor Shiner, and Brian McLeod as member.
Thank you. Motion on the table and discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. So that concludes our business we have to attend to for our agencies, boards, and commissions. And we will now get back to our meeting topic with our guests today, which is workforce development and retention. We'd like to welcome you all here this afternoon. And what I'd like to do is maybe ask all of our witnesses, maybe beginning with Mrs. Weatherdon, to go across, introduce yourselves, and then I'll come back to those who have an opening statement. So, Mrs. Weatherdon.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Shakira Weatherdon, Acting Senior Executive Director in Skills and Learning Branch in the Labor, Skills and Immigration Department.
Good afternoon, Ava Czapalay, Deputy Minister, Labor, Skills and Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Bureaux, President of the Nova Scotia Community College.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andrew Lafford, Acting Vice President of Academic, Nova Scotia Community College.
Thank you. Welcome. We'd like to now offer those who have an opening statement to present their opening statement for our committee. And I guess we'll begin with Deputy Czapalay to begin.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here today along with Shakira Weatherdon, Acting Senior Executive Director of Skills and Learning. I'm pleased to be back here to update you on some of the work the department is currently engaged in and the progress we've made in workforce development and retention. The department is laser focused on breaking down barriers, attaching Nova Scotians to work, and connecting employers to job seekers. We continue to be strategic and sustainable with our recruitment efforts, focusing on attracting people with the skills employers need most. As of July 2024, our labor force was 8,400 persons higher than last year, for a total of 546,100 Nova Scotians employed. Employment increased by 12,000 jobs compared to this time last year, and youth employment is up, with over 67,000 employed youth. The country's unemployment is 6.4%, and unemployment in Nova Scotia was at 6.6% in July 2024. Nova Scotia has held historic lows for the past 12 months. Although these are good results, our work is never done. Our role at Labor, Skills and Immigration is to help Nova Scotians thrive. We want to make sure people who are able to work have the skills they need to connect with employers. And we are proud of to have the capabilities to offer many skills and training options. We have 50 Nova Scotia work centres in communities throughout the province, helping connect people to work. Our wage subsidy programs for youth make it easier for employers to hire post-secondary students and graduates, helping to create work experiences, good jobs, and keep graduates here. And it is always front of mind that we need more healthcare professionals. We're strategic in our recruitment efforts, understanding that successful settlement includes successful employment and welcoming communities. In addition to workforce tools for development and retention, we must look for ways to remove barriers to work. We have more job seekers in Nova Scotia as our population grows. The number of Nova Scotians who are working or looking for work is 4.3% higher than last year. And in 2023, Over 9,000 economic immigrants and their families arrived in Nova Scotia. We fund 25 organizations throughout the province to support newcomers, settlement in their communities, and to support success in their workplaces. Retaining Nova Scotia's workforce is our priority. We are continuously looking at new ways of doing things, listening to sector councils, organizations, and communities on gaps and challenges they face. We also believe that by removing barriers, we can positively impact retention. Labour Skill and Immigration's partnership with advanced education, post-secondary institutions like NSCC, and industry on the micro-credentials program is one example of how we're addressing workforce challenges. Offering more and relevant short training courses provides an opportunity for employees to upskill and create career opportunities while people are working. This approach addresses skills gaps and improves productivity in the workforce. Internal collaboration has also proved pivotal in reducing barriers. Our Nova Scotia School for Adult Learning tutoring hubs have our Adult Education Division and the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency working together to support apprentices as they work towards certification. Many apprentices need access to trades math support, trade-specific tutoring, and exam writing practices. These tutoring hubs are being piloted in communities and in trades that have the most need. And of course, we know that those working in the skilled trades are vital to the growth of our province, which is why we are investing in recruiting and retaining skilled trades professionals. And as our province grows, so does our need to attract people to Nova Scotia. We have expanded the Workplace Practical Trades Assessment Program to rural Nova Scotia. In partnership with ISANS, we're helping place newcomers in apprenticeship programs while recognizing their previous experience. We continue to offer the More Opportunities for Skilled Trades, the acronym MOST is what's most familiar, program that sees journey persons and apprentices under age 30 eligible to receive a tax rebate. We also understand the need to build capacity in the skilled trades. We need a workforce that can support itself as it grows and as more apprentices enter the system. Our recently announced Journey Person Financial Incentive Program is one tool we are offering to help build capacity. This program encourages journey persons to mentor and train apprentices and will hopefully encourage apprentices to become mentors once they are journey persons themselves. Growing the apprenticeship system is the focus of the $100 million investment announced last fall to support direct programming for students, apprentices, journey persons, and employers so we can train skilled trades professionals faster and in more inclusive and accessible ways throughout the province. Our current apprenticeship recruitment and retention goals include certifying 1,000 trade professionals per year for the next 3 years. In 2023, we certified over 800 people. We are well on our way to achieving our goals in growing the skilled trades. In closing, I am proud of the department's efforts to grow the skilled trades, support workforce needs, and retain people working in Nova Scotia. We will continue to challenge existing systems and make improvements to develop and retain a strong workforce. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Deputy Czapalay. Mr. Bureaux, I believe you have some opening remarks as well.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank the Chair and the committee members for inviting myself and my colleague, Acting Vice President Andrew Lafford, here to talk about a topic that we truly enjoy talking about and working towards, which, of course, is workforce development and retention. And we're pleased to be here with Deputy Minister Czapalay and her colleague. Today is not only an exciting day for us to be here, Mr. Chair, but today is the first day of classes for our incoming class at NSCC. So it's a day like Christmas morning at NSCC. So we're very, very pleased with this. Now, I know how familiar this all-party committee is with the work at the college. And please know that your support of our work and the campus communities is truly appreciated. Now, we work very hard to make sure that the work of NSCC is aligned very well with our provincial partners. Many of you would know the mission of NSCC is to build Nova Scotia's economy and quality of life through education and innovation. And we are focused, as Deputy Minister Czapalay said, we are laser focused also on efforts to help build Nova Scotia's workforce. And we know how impactful a post-secondary education is, not only in terms of its economic impact, but of course in terms of its critical social impact on each individual, on their families, and ultimately on our communities. We also know to be true that education transforms our workforce and our citizens, so your topic today is so crucially important. We must continue to evolve and to enhance pathways for learners so they can find the right field of study to equip them with the training, the education, the skills that they need to support our labor market and lead to good paying careers right here in Nova Scotia. Again, I know many of you know this, but the Nova Scotia Community College has over 140 programs and 14 campuses, including an e-campus, and we provide many options for learners and offer an accessible post-secondary opportunity. Of course, we work very closely with industry and our government partners to continue to evolve our curriculum and to ensure our students are very well prepared. And our strong connections are vitally important with industry as we, as you know, ensure that each one of our students has a work placement to connect them with industry as soon as possible. Now, many of you know in this room today someone who's decided to attend NSCC. And for some of us in this room, it may be their son's first day at NSCC today. I want to share a few stats. As you would know, we would welcome this academic year almost 20,000 learners that come to NSCC. Interesting stat, 33% of those learners, the first people in their family ever to study at a post-secondary level. 54%, over half, have studied somewhere else at the post-secondary level before they come to us. And the average age of a Nova Scotia Community College student is 26 years old. The number that really is important to us is that 92% of our graduates are employed, and 93% of those employed graduates are working, living, and pursuing a life right here in Nova Scotia. Now, we know that the provincial funds are so significant for us as a revenue source here at the college, and I hope you know that we want to make sure that you're getting a good return for that investment. And while making a difference in the lives of our individual learners, in fact, our total annual impact in 2022-2023 is estimated to be a $2.2 billion impact as identified by the Economic Value of NSCC study. In the growing population, the expanding economy that we have in this province, we know that we can't stand still. We must continue to evolve, continue to innovate, and to meet these opportunities with new delivery methods, more accessibility, more acceleration, and more flexibility. By strengthening our current collaborative efforts, again with wonderful partners like the Deputy Minister, including supporting underrepresented communities and upskilling and creating new pathways from one occupation to another, we know we're working together to reach the goals that our government partners and our communities have. Now, just a couple of examples before I finish. I want this committee to know that we are locked on developing shorter, sharper micro-credentials to address the emerging needs like industries like the green economy. We're providing fast-tracked options like the accelerated ECE, CCA, and carpentry programs to get students into high-demand careers faster. We're responding to the digital world with advances in programs like IT programming for artificial intelligence. And we've also been able to expand our practical nursing and continuing care programs through government investments with tuition support for more than 2,000 CCA students. We'll continue our discussions, and they will evolve with our industry and government partners on additional initiatives to support in-demand areas. I also want to make note of our applied research teams are working with partners to find practical solutions to support real-world issues such as flood risk and wildfire mapping and clean energy solutions to support, of course, sustainable housing. Mr. Chair, I'm going to end by quoting our national body, Colleges and Institutes Canada, recently stated, with an unwavering commitment to supporting skill development, fostering international competency, driving innovation, and supporting the well-being of learners, colleges are nurturing the next generation of graduates who will lead Canada's economy, our society, and our image on the world stage. And I want to assure everyone in this room at NSCC, we're on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you, Mr. Bureau. So we will begin our question and answer period with our committee members to our guests. Just a reminder to all of our committee members that it is by show of hands. I'll be recognizing you, so the questions will be coming, random around the table, coming to you. We will do questioning till 2:45, excuse me. And I tried to get an extra hour out of that meeting. 2:45, and we will begin with MLA Tilley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our presenters who took the time out of your schedule to come here, and especially on students returning today. It's almost like Christmas, as President Bureau said. The only other day that's funner at the campus is graduation day. But my question is for Deputy Czapalay, and it's around the MOST program. So the MOST program, I just have a quick couple of questions on that, and I know I can only get one on this round. But so I guess I'll start it off with what has been the uptake in the MOST program with last year, and how much budget was left at the end of the fiscal year?
Deputy Czapalay.
Thanks for the question. And the more opportunities for skilled trades, in fact, you'll be aware, has expanded beyond the skilled trades into other occupations. It's a program that's managed through the Department of Finance. We promote it to the skilled trades so that workers under the age of 30 earning more than $50,000 know that that's an opportunity for them to get the rebate. But the Department of Finance actually has the final numbers in terms of who applied and what the amounts are and that kind of detail.
So just a reminder to all of our committee members, as usually the case, I will allow for a follow-up to your original question. And I'd like to ask everyone to make sure your follow-up is relating to your original question. It's not a chance to get another question out there, okay? If you don't want clarification from a witness's answer or something. So, MLA Tilley, with that in mind?
Fine for that question.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. MLA Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question will go to NSCC, spent a life in the trades and whatnot. First, I'd like to thank you on hearing about the accelerated carpentry program, the work around the CCA enrollment as well, which has been huge. Back at the trades, I think of some of the trades that may have trade shortage. There may be shortages, labor shortages out there, like plumbing, maybe some other ones as well. It's a two-part question, Mr. Chair, so it's my follow-up and question in one. But I'm just curious on what NSCBC is doing to build capacity, but second, to also improve enrollment in programs that are in high demand so we can help address these labor shortages.
Mr. Bureau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I promise I'll try to behave better this round in terms of not answering so quickly. I thank the MLA for his question. In terms of recruiting students into the trades, we know that there's a great career to be had in the skilled trades. We know that to be true, working with our industry partners. We see people now with great passion coming back and being mentors to so the stories are there about. So we realize that message has to get into the public school system earlier. There was a generation, unfortunately, we lost in the province of Nova Scotia where it wasn't an attractive career choice. We knew different, but the messaging wasn't there. So that process of increasing the talent pool begins much earlier. That includes our recruiting into the high schools. We have summer camps happening. We have opportunities for our students to come and do a test drive, and the list goes on and on. Once they're ready to explore an option, we have many programs where they can come and do an open house. They can do other exploratory options. Once they're in the program, we want to focus on retention. So we want them to be absolutely trained on the latest equipment, working with the latest best professionals and getting that work experience. And then once they leave us, there's a very smooth connection with the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency, which I must say that interaction as joint stewards of the apprenticeship program for Nova Scotia, I don't think has ever been stronger. I think it's absolutely vitally strong. Now, in terms of making sure that we're giving opportunities for every Nova Scotian who wishes to pursue a skilled trade, we are working our wait lists like we've never worked before. If we look at the wait list at the Nova Scotia Community College, they're high in the skilled trades. And we are now, as a matter of fact, making personal contact with everybody on that wait list and presenting opportunities for them for expanded program offerings, or recommending that direct entry is a very viable option, and we'll work with those learners as the blocks go on. So I am very proud of the efforts that we're doing, beginning in the public school system all the way through to partnering with the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency.
Thank you. And MLA Bureaux.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about the direct entry option. I was going to ask you, Ms. Weatherdon, we know in a time of shortage in so many areas that this is an expedited path, so it would be a way that people could move a lot quicker into a line of work. What is the department doing to promote direct entry into those trades where it's an option?
Deputy Czapalay.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the question. And because direct entry is more apprenticeship focused, I'll handle that question. Ms. Weatherdon is more focused on the skills and learning side. So we're lucky to have a couple of options in the skilled trades so that young people and, well, everyone can understand that they can either go to NSCC and get some training, and some of that training might apply to some of their levels if they choose to go into apprenticeship, or they can simply walk onto a job site anytime. And if the employer has a journey person who's willing to take that apprentice on, then they can get hired right away and start their apprenticeship journey while they're working. And it's important to remember that if they choose to stay at level 1, they're happy, they want to be a laborer and work in that trade and not advance, that's an option. Or they may wish to progress through the trade. We certainly hope that's what they choose to do, because we need more journey persons. And they write their level exams. Usually it's 1 level through 4. And NSCC is our largest provider for offering the preparation for the levels in order for the apprentices to advance through the various levels. But working hand in hand with President Bureaux and his team, we're making it very, very certain that students understand at a fairly early age that both options are available to them. Go direct to work, or they can go through NSCC.
Thank you. MLA Bureaux for a follow-up.
Yeah, so just further to that then. You spoke about this, Mr. Bureaux. So you have the wait lists in areas where direct entry is an option. So how do you make people aware of that possible path? Do you encourage them towards that path? Is it a kind of an active nudge or passive information sharing? Or?
Mr. Bureau.
We do that very proactively. When we communicate with learners that are on, or potential learners that are on the wait list, we do tell them that this program may be offered at a different campus than perhaps they've initially chosen to pursue, or if they wish to go into direct entry, that option is available too. I also want to just note, if I may, Mr. Chair, the third leg of this stool, the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency, their training partners, of which we are one, and industry. Industry is such a critical partner in this, and making sure that when our apprentices enter the workforce, that it's a safe, welcoming environment. And we've seen a tremendous evolution in our industry partners of making that workplace more welcoming and more inclusive. Are we there yet completely? No, but we've seen great strides in that.
Thank you. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as I graduated from, it wasn't NSCC, but I did graduate to campus in 1990. And there's always been wait lists. I mean, I know people that in grade 9, grade 10 back when many moons ago, that have to apply in grade 10, grade 11 to be able to get through it. And I know my daughter's been out of school for 9 years and it's still. So the wait list, I'm just kind of confused, because it seems like every time I hear plumbing, electricians, it's a 2-year wait list. It's a 2-year wait list, and it's always a 2-year wait list. So what is NSCC doing to try and, add capacity to those programs? Because obviously those trades we need. We can't build houses if I don't have more electricians. I mean, it's to get over the hump, we need more. So what's NSCC's plan for actually, getting that?
Mr. Bureau.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So, again, right now we have approximately 900 people on our wait list right now. However, when we mine that wait list, that number comes down quickly because people have not removed their name from the wait list, even though they decided to do something else. So we try to get an accurate number of what that actually is. We do then put on extra offerings in order to meet that demand or a partial part of that demand. But I have to stress, Mr. McDonald, that managing a wait list is an art and a science and a supply and demand. That if we simply open up more offerings of a particular trade, and yes, there is the narrative that we need more skilled, trained people in Nova Scotia, and I believe that we do. But on a trade-by-trade basis, if we double enrollment in one particular trade and there's not opportunities for those individuals to get a position where they can continue with their apprenticeship journey, then we are not doing anybody any favor. So it's always that match between supply and demand. Do we get it perfect every time? No, we don't. We absolutely don't. But that's the art and science of what. So right now, we are actively going through that list, and what we're doing much more of is off-cycle programming. So if we have people that wanted to get into NSCC in September and there wasn't a seat available, then we'll offer something in November and do more off-cycle. The last thing that I'll say, Mr. McDonald, that we're doing right now, and again, I love your question, is that a few years ago we made tuition due earlier in the summer. So now tuition is due at the beginning of August. And that allows us to understand who's truly going to be there in September. And if a person cannot pay their tuition or make arrangements to pay their tuition on August the 1st, that gives us a whole month to work that wait list. So there's no seat empty on September the 3rd that remains empty for the entire year.
Thank you very much. No, any follow-up, Emily McDonald? If it's
It'd be a
related to
preamble.
that,
It'd be a preamble, so I'll just put me on the
well,
list.
I think we'll put you back on the list. And Mr. Bureau, it's first day of school. The teacher will give you a pass on the microphone for now. MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to the department. Women's participation in the skilled trades remains low, and this appears to be a key area to look at if we are to address the skilled labor shortages. So last year, the YWCA released a report on sexual and gender-based harassment in the skills trades. One of those recommendations was to include sexual harassment in the Occupational Health and Safety Act. I would like to know, has your department looked into that and maybe came up with some thoughts or ideas on how they can change that?
Deputy Czapalay.
Well, thank you for the question. And certainly at 8.8%, the percentage of women in the skilled trades is really, really low. And skilled trades, as President Bureaux mentioned, fantastic career opportunity. We find that people in the skilled trades report high satisfaction rate with their career choice. But you went right to the heart of the matter, which is that we need safe and welcoming workplaces. If we're to continue our efforts to diversify the trades need to be welcome and opening to everyone. And we do understand that women have had experiences in the skilled trades that makes them feel sometimes like they're not welcomed. And we did commission the report that the Y put out last year, and they spoke to examples of what women are seeing and feeling in the skilled trades. We are working with our partners. So we have a number of initiatives, both within our apprenticeship agency, looking at increasing the number of women in the skilled trades, and also with our industry partners to ensure that workplaces are safe and welcoming. And certainly having workplaces that are free from harassment is essential. And you'll recall probably that we had a public consultation on harassment last fall. We consulted with 1,000 Nova Scotians, both employers and employees, and they told us, first, we need more clarity on what harassment looks like. Sometimes harassment feels fairly benign on the surface, but it isn't. And if it's perpetuated over a long period of time, it can take its toll. So the outcome of that consultation was that we need clarity around harassment. And so we have come up with a clearer definition in consultation with our colleagues from the Human Rights Commission, our own department, of course, community services, workers' compensation, and others. And so one thing we hope to do is through education, make it very clear to employers what their role is on a work site, and also make it clear to employees what harassment is and isn't. But at the end of the day, I think we all need to lean in and make sure that everybody feels welcome at work, regardless of where they are, and that there is a place for everyone and they bring their skills. So we're enlisting a wide number of colleagues and organizations from across Nova Scotia to help deliver that message and that training. Is there time for my colleague Shakira Weatherdon to add to my response?
Yes, I believe, Mrs. Weatherdon.
I just wanted to add that for us at Labor Skills and Immigration, and certainly in my branch, it's really about taking an intersectional lens to this as well. We recognize that not just women, but also non-binary folks, racialized folks, Indigenous folks, I mean, the list goes on. So when we're really looking at what are safe and inclusive workplaces, we're taking that lens so that we can really ensure that everyone has the ability to come to work and to work safely and return home. And so part of that is our partnership with industry. And in our branch, we continue to support employers with access to funding for training, for review of HR practices, just anything that allows us to be able to create a culture that is safe and inclusive for all members of our communities to be able to show up at work and to do so safely.
Thank you very much. MLA Tilley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and back to Most again. So we know that it's a great program to incentivize people to stay in Nova Scotia and continue to work in Nova Scotia. But I think it's kind of cumbersome, and I know the finance department sort of runs that program, but just wanted to get your opinion on some things that I've noticed about the program. So the age of 30. As we heard President Bureaux talk about the average age of a Nova Scotian in NSCC is 26. So by the time they graduate, they're 27, 28, some maybe even 29. So their ability to take advantage of this program is limited. There's a lot of folks that are retraining that come in their 30s and their 40s. And I had a case in my office of a nurse who, this program has been expanded to nurses, who was 32 or 34, I can't remember exactly, but the fact that she had decided to retrain to become a nurse and was not eligible. So just a suggestion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, my suggestion would be that there's a period of time post-qualification or post-entry into the trade or whatever program is involved that this program would apply. And the second part, it's a similar part, is around, for the trades in particular, you have to be attached to apprenticeship. But there are many employers, for whatever reason, who are unable to, and the example I'm going to use is the communications trades with Bell Alliant. And I've had many young folks want to get enrolled in this program, but because they're not enrolled in the actual apprenticeship program, and there is an apprenticeship stream for communications, but they're unable to go into the stream, and they're left out of the program. So I think it's a great program, and that was kind of lead in to my question about how much of it is actually used, because I think we could expand it and make it that much more beneficial for Nova Scotians. Long-winded, I know.
So that is to the deputy, correct?
It is.
Okay, Deputy Czapalay.
Yeah, thanks for the question and for your interest. I feel like, so Most is in its second year now, and I believe that when we set up a pilot, we have to give it every opportunity to fully function as a, and show what it can do. So I do feel like there is room to promote it more, and we'll be working through the apprenticeship agency and through our partners to make sure that people are aware of MOST and take advantage of it. And, as with any pilot, any kind of input is welcome, and any kind of thoughts on how to improve it are welcome. I like to see it be given a chance. Is it a deal maker for people choosing to relocate here from other jurisdictions or from elsewhere, and does it make a difference? Anecdotally, we're hearing from people that it makes a difference, and we're hearing from people that that made a difference for me when I relocated to rural Nova Scotia and started a job in the trade. So we just like to give it a chance to see what it can do, and added to the other initiatives that we have in apprenticeship, I think it can make a big difference.
Okay, MLA Tilley, that was a two-part question, but I'll give you a quick follow-up. Quick.
So I agree with you that it's definitely an incentive for some, but it also can be a deal breaker for others who don't have the opportunity and could move away for a higher wage, for instance. So I just wanted to add that in there, that I think looking at that age and that time frame and the apprenticeable thing, I think would be only enhance it. So just wanted to add that in. No answer required.
Thank you, MLA Tilley. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to touch and go back on the micro-credentialing, because, even as early as today in Community Services Committee, it was discussed in the film ministry and their micro-credentialing. And it seems like really quite a nice buzzword, but I was wondering if we could go into a little bit of some background on how it was developed and recently. I don't know which one. Is it maybe?
So I'll pass it to Deputy Czapalay, and then you can do with it from there what you would like. Deputy Czapalay.
Thank you very much. So micro-credentials are just like bite-sized pieces of training that people need in the moment to either attach to work, or an employer needs to advance a worker to other work that they might be doing. The way I kind of try keep it straight is thinking about a mechanic who suddenly has to do work on an electric vehicle. Do they need to quit their job and go back to school to get that training, or can they take a short course while they're on the job to learn how to service that new vehicle? So the thing that I'm super excited about is that our department, along with advanced education and working with NSCC and the universities and all of the sector councils, stood up a community of practice. And that is with industry, post-secondary, and government, saying, how can we make sure that when we create micro-credentials, we are creating a quality product? And so we collectively developed a framework around that to ensure that whatever we offer is quality, and it's something that employers can use and that employees find helpful. And so our real goal is to try and help employees attach to work or remain attached to work by these bite-sized pieces of training. So I'll just see if my colleague would like to add to that.
Mrs. Weatherdon.
Yeah, I'll just add that it's really a unique collaborative approach for the department, and certainly across the nation. We hear and share practice across the country around micro-credentials. So the framework was developed in collaboration with industry, with government partners, with post-secondary institutions, including NSCC. And it's really, I think, an important piece because it sets up across the province promising practices around what micro-credentials are and the credentialing of them, including the criteria that is necessary for micro-credentials. This allows us to make sure that we all have the same understanding around what micro-credentials are, and also allows us to be able to, through our marketing of micro-credentials, raise awareness for employees and employers around the benefit of micro-credentials for their workplaces in order to help them upskill and reskill employees to remain at work, or for folks to attach to employment opportunities. The community of practice, I think, is also an important step for us. This community of practice meets regularly, shares practices, and it's really an opportunity for us at Labor Skills and Immigration and at Labor Skills and Immigration to learn from industry as well some of the challenges that they're facing and to be able to address them in micro-credentials. And we're happy to have been able to, through our innovation fund 15 projects so far that are significant, and also really, I think, connecting to the priorities priorities of government and industry and post-secondaries. And I think part of what's important about the 15 is that it allows us to, it was an opportunity for us to fund not only current, but also future trends in engaging workforce skills gaps. And so it's a significant opportunity for us to be able to really work with our industry partners, work with post-secondary institutions and government to come together and really utilize this framework and this opportunity to fill the gaps that are there in the labor market.
Thank you, Mrs. Weatherdon. And I believe Mr. Bureaux had his hand up. MLA Sheehy-Richard would like to give, is it okay? Because so we'd have to go to a new question for you in the next round, if that's possible. Or Mr. Bureau would like to yep, okay. So
I do have a little follow-up, but I could save that for next round and have him make his comment.
That's what
if that's okay.
Either or. So Mr. Bureau would like to answer that question. Mr. Bureau.
When I think of micro-credentials, I think of the implicit contract that we have as educators to our students and how fundamentally that's changing, where students want just-in-time, right now learning opportunities. Now, this concept has been around for a long time, but because of technology and the ability to collaborate with industry, we're much able to do it. And if I may, if I could just get my colleague, Andrew, just to comment on just a couple of the very specific examples that we're working on right now from a micro-credential point of view. I think it's so important that we understand what those are.
Mr. Lafford.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, one of the great examples is around transferable skills. So if you have someone that's in the construction industry, for example, that might be a tradesperson, a carpenter, a welder, and they are looking at staying in the industry but moving into a position of more of a construction management or estimator or project manager type of position. It's a little less maybe hard on the body. They're at a point in their career that that's right for them. We have offered micro-credentials right across the province, both online and in person, to help those folks make that jump or that transition, I guess. We've also provided micro-credentials for electricians, roofers, carpenters around solar energy, both the installation, design, and also the maintenance and repair for solar panels and photovoltaic solar panels across the province. So those are a couple of examples that I would say right there that are among the, we've got 22 micro-credentials on our shelf right now that we're delivering, and that's across all the campuses in Nova Scotia with a very good pass-through rate of 75%, which is a little bit above the national average that we've been able to ascertain from working with a national body around micro-credentials that was established a few years ago and is still very much part of the national leaders in micro-credentials for colleges across Canada, and that's Canadian Colleges for Resilient Recovery. And so they've helped us establish and purchase micro-credentials that we've been able to deliver to Nova Scotians for the past few years and continue to.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. MLA Young.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you articulated it quite well, President Bureau, when you mentioned the three legs of a stool, right, the industry, the training, and apprenticeship. And when you have graduates that would come out of NSCC that need to be indentured or be under, attached to someone, and just back at, someone mentioned it before, between the certified and uncertified labor that we do have out there. So to LSI, like what are we doing to encourage uncertified tradespeople to become certified?
Deputy Czapalay.
Well, thanks for the question. And certainly part of the actions for skilled trades, the $100 million that we're using to expand the skilled trades, part of the action is to expand the system itself. So what's the receptor capacity of our apprenticeship system? And one of the things we really need to do is try and encourage more journey persons or highly qualified tradespeople to take on apprentices. And some just have chosen not to up until this point. And so earlier this summer, we did announce an incentive, a financial incentive that will encourage journey persons to take on an apprentice and and really see them through, mentor them, and see them through their levels. And the idea in providing the financial incentive is really acknowledging that when you're mentoring someone, it does take time out of your day, and perhaps you have to work a little longer to get your regular work done because you're taking time out to show someone a new skill or support them in their progress. So we really feel like expanding the system is the way to go. And it's as important as it is to both encourage young people to see a career in the skilled trades, it's really important to see really well-qualified tradespeople step up and see their role as mentoring people and expanding the capacity in our skilled trade system.
Thank you. Next three questioners will be MLA Duale, MLA McDonald, and MLA Bureaux. MLA Duale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming. My question is personal to me, and also it's something that I really have a passion in it. First of all, I'm grateful. NSCC, I'm a grad of NSCC, and NSCC was one of the places that offer for me to have skills that I can offer something myself as well as the society. My question is, there was a project that was created a couple of years ago through NSCC and LSI, and I find out that project was fascinating because the outcome. And this project was dedicated for the newcomers, specifically for the refugees who are willing to have some skills and make contribution for the society. And some of those people actually, before they get this program, they were part of the community service. So in other words, they didn't have any skills, so they were getting to be supported by the community service. When this program was created, the program was running during the summer through the NSCC, which didn't cost the school any burden because the school was closed. And those people who graduate went workforce right now. What I'd like to know is where that program is and what outcome or result that investment that you can offer. And my question is both of the deputy, because the Office of Immigration was involved through the ISNS, as well as the president. Thank you.
So who would like to begin the answers? We'll go with Mr. Bureau to start.
Thank you for the question. I will have to come back with some of those numbers in terms of the results. And I too feel that was one of the most impactful programs that we've ever offered. If you think about the Nova Scotia Community College, at our very DNA is to make education accessible, full stop. And we make it accessible for those individuals who want to spend their time learning to pursue an amazing career here in Nova Scotia. And that program for refugees was one of the best examples of that. In terms of plans for that program to continue, I do not have that information at my fingertips, but I do promise we'll give an update through the clerk, and we can find out the numbers in terms of the graduates. I simply don't have that number at my fingertips.
And I believe Deputy Czapalay, you wanted Deputy Czapalay to respond as well? MLA Duale?
Sure.
Okay, Deputy Czapalay.
I'll defer to President Bureau for following up, but I do want to say that in terms of welcoming newcomers, that does include refugees. And MLA Duale, I just learned something new about yourself. I didn't realize you were a graduate of NSCC. One of the things that we speak with IRCC about is working with asylum seekers and refugees to better understand the skill sets that they have and that they're bringing to Nova Scotia, and to have conversations about how they want to pursue attachment to work while they're here. And getting that information ahead of time can help us plan. And one of the things in skilled trades, and I'm not sure if this was available when you were a student, but one of the things that we now offer is in partnership with ISANS for people coming here who may not have the paperwork to prove that they have a history in a skilled trades, for instance. They can go on a job site for up to 3 months. We pay the employer, and the employer observes the skills. And then they tell us what skill level they feel someone is at, and then the individual, often a refugee, can write an exam and start progressing through their apprenticeship rather than starting at day one of a trade if they've been working in that trade for their career.
Thank you. Emily McDonald. Oh,
I
Emily
believe
Dwally
Emily Diab might have had a follow-up, so I just...
So did you have a follow-up for that line of questioning, Emily
Sure.
Dwally?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope I'll get your attention today. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I can see your body language and the passion that you have that program, and I really believe it was one of the best programs that I have seen being offered. The refugees, especially those who have no skills, including the language. And my testimony is because this is personal to me, because I met those individuals. I see their lives, and it has been accomplished. I can go the list on and on. They've been retained in Nova Scotia because we know most of the refugees, when they don't find anything in Nova Scotia, they leave. They've been trained, and they have a skill that they can go anywhere in their life. They make a contribution because they have become taxpayers. And I can go on and on and on. So I really believe, and I really like to encourage you, as well as the deputy, this kind of ideas. And sometimes this is where I feel those of us who make decisions, including myself as an MLA, we take one step forward, and then we take 2 steps backward. The reason I'm saying this is, a program like that should not be abolished. A program like that should be cherished and be invested, because it's an investment for our community and the people that we welcome this country. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's not good enough you welcome somebody in Canada. It's better to allow them to succeed, specifically for Nova Scotia. And I really like to see this kind of ideas to be invested and to be encouraged for the government. Very short time. It was, I think, only 3 months. Those people today, they have a full-time job, and they sustain their life. So I encourage you to do this, and thank you for your effort.
Thank you, Emily Dwally. Emily McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just, I know this is going to be my question, but one thing that's been mentioned is, having some issues getting people to the skilled trade. Here's the problem. It's no longer a skilled trade, it's a skilled profession. And I think the word trade, because when I was 19, trade was not what it is now. My brother can work on a car. You wouldn't want me touching your car. And nowadays, the amount of stuff they have to do, it's not just taking it off. So to me, one of the things is I think we need to, although most wouldn't sound that good if we did that, I understand that, because the acronym would be very weird. But I'm just saying, I'm just saying that I think that's one of the things that we need to look at, because for me, I've stopped saying skilled trade a while ago, and it's skilled profession. I mean, the folks that are taking these courses, they're going through computers. They're going through stuff nobody envisioned, batteries and all this. And to think that's what my generation called a trade is just different. So to my question, thanks for the preamble. I heard about the agreement between Nova Scotia and Ontario, and I will be upfront as I didn't read it all. I only got, so I just want to know from the department, how is that going to help us attract people to Nova Scotia? And I'm assuring we're potentially going to lose some to Ontario, but I'm more worried about how does the department see that it helping Nova Scotians?
Deputy Czapalay.
Well, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question, and I think you'll see in our marketing material for attracting people to the skilled trades profession, you'll see that the word professional shows up. You can watch for that.
No worries. Thank you.
So Ontario and Nova Scotia did sign an agreement recently around labor mobility. And the idea there is that we're both doing research on similar markets around the world where people are coming with credentials from all over the world. And are those credentials similar to what they would earn here if they were practicing in any profession, including the trades. And so maybe by having a joint arrangement where Ontario's doing research, we're doing research, we can collaborate and share our research. And also recognizing that we have a lot of mobility between Ontario and Nova Scotia, people coming here and people going there, that having some consistency in labor mobility is a good thing. So that's the long and the short of it.
And then McDonald, follow-up?
I have my long preamble, so I'll go back on the list, Mr. Chair.
Very good. I appreciate that, Mr. McDonald. We will now move on to MLA Bureaux.
Thank you. Ms. Czapalay, you were speaking earlier about the relationship between a skilled tradesperson and the person an apprenticeship and the person they're working under. And big changes in that world with the changes last year to a 3-to-1 ratio. So it's easy to see how that ratio change will improve the number of people moving through. But we also I also think about it changes that relationship. I mean, so plainly at 3-to-1 there wouldn't be the same mentoring impact as you would have with the 1-to-1 ratio. And I wonder, is that having any potential impact on retention of people that as we attach more people to the person they're working under, if the change in that relationship, is the department seeing anything about that or been thinking about that?
Deputy Minister Czapalay.
So thank you for the question. In terms of the skilled trades ratio of apprentices to journey persons on a work site, what we're saying there is that it's really up to the manager to decide what the appropriate ratio is. So think for a minute what the demand on a journey person is if they have 2 fourth-year apprentices as part of their ratio, or 3 fourth-year, or 3 first-year apprentices. Right, so number one is that safety can never be sacrificed, front and center. So it's really up to the person managing the work site to decide who can be safely and appropriately managed given where they are in the apprenticeship journey. And so before we were saying it has to be this ratio and there's no nuancing. Now we're saying we recognize there's nuances to your work site and you decide what's safest, recognizing that you have this flexibility.
You have a follow-up, Emily Burrow?
Thank you. Well, I guess this is the key issue, safety and training. And this is what Manitoba talked about when they moved back 1-to-1. It said we're not getting what we want on safety and training. We're going to go back to 1-to-1. Are we hearing any of these concerns in Nova Scotia at all?
Deputy Minister Czapalay.
So to date, changing the ratio has not influenced the safety record. We continue to monitor it. We believe that work sites have every interest in managing a safe work site, and we will continue to educate them and work with them to ensure that that's the case. And allowing that flexibility, we feel, to your point on retention, we feel that it does allow for a more nuanced support of apprentices. And the other thing that we've noticed too is that using technology now, so since COVID, there's ways of monitoring a work site. Does someone actually have to visit a work site to make sure that a weld has been done properly? Or can they see it on a camera? So there's other ways of introducing technology to lighten the load as well. So there's a lot of things happening right now on a work site that makes me feel confident that allowing our work sites to have a increased ratio is safe and it's appropriate.
Thank you very much. MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to revisit gender-based harassment in the skills trades, but I appreciate the answer I was given in the last question. But I'm also curious to know that if we know that the rate of sexual and gender-based harassment in the skills trade is high, what safeguards are in place to support women and gender-diverse individuals completing apprenticeships? Is there like a pathway for switching who you're training under? Is there a way to make changes as needed when you're in the apprenticeship program? And this would be to the Deputy Minister.
Deputy Czapalay.
Well, thank you for your question. And we do, I did remember, it's simple. We have a Women in Skills Trades division within our apprenticeship agency. And part of the work of that division is to visit work sites from an education and training, but also from a safety perspective. And as Mrs. Weatherdon mentioned, there's often an intersectional piece to women in the skilled trades. So listening to people and hearing their stories and understanding what those might be, and then helping work out a resolution. So we do have that activity. We're also very active in terms of working with our different associations. And so, for example, the Construction Association of Nova Scotia is passionately interested in working with us on this topic. Minister Balser was fortunate to receive a presentation from a national organization, for example, on women wearing personal protective equipment on work sites. So we found that a large percentage of women don't wear their personal protective equipment because A, it doesn't fit, or B, it fits in a way that doesn't make them feel like they can do their job. So they don't wear it. So we're working with employers to say, first of all, you can't have an employee on your work site not wearing their boots. If their boots are too big, go find a pair for them. Or, so it's some things feel like, why are we talking about this in 2024? And other times, but I'm finding that the associations where they have such a voice with their memberships are very, very willing. Also with the unions are very engaged as well. And so I feel like we need to empower the voices of those who speak for many and say, we need this to happen. We need safer and more welcoming workplaces, and this is what it looks like. Proper PPE, an understanding of where the washrooms are and who gets to use what and all of that. If you have a lunch break, that you don't go off women on one side and men on the other. You can have a collective lunch break, I think, and think of things to talk about, together, things like that. So actively engaging and moving the bar forward so that hopefully this time next year, that won't be a point of conversation. We'll be past that.
Thank you very much. Our next three questions will come from MLA Sheehy-Richard, MLA Tilley, and MLA Dually. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you. So for the micro-credentialing, my follow-up was actually, thank you, it was pretty much answered, which was how would, it adapt and change for the future. So the example of the electrician to the solar panel made perfectly good sense. So on that theme, many industries are using the government's micro-credentialing framework to prepare the workforce for specific industry jobs. With this framework in place, like now that it's in place, does NSCC plan to expand offerings of micro-credentials for further support, like to further support the workplace development? Like, are you guys already looking into the future and what that might be? Mr. Lafford,
that would be
maybe?
Mr. Bureaux or Mr. Lafford? Who would you like to hear from?
Mr. Lafford, perhaps?
Mr. Lafford?
Yeah, we constantly are looking at, one of the best things about NSCC is how closely connected we are with industry, and that helps us get a real close look at what is needed in the province across all sectors. We're a comprehensive college. We're the only publicly funded college, so we have to have the 140 programs, so we're connected into pretty much every sector in the province. And through our schools, our 5 schools, we're constantly looking at our programming, both our core, like the longer traditional programs that everyone's used to taking, getting, a regular credential, and also our shorter programs around micro-credentialing. We have a workforce development arm at the college who manages that for us, but it's influenced largely by what industry is looking for and what industry is telling us in terms of what the skill gaps are, but also the numbers of workers that are needed to get those skills.
Thank you. Is there a follow-up, MLA Bouchard? Okay. MLA Tilley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And on a new vein, we're going to go away from most. The question I have is around the Nova Scotia nominee program. So I had a young gentleman come into my office numerous occasions who works at Tim Hortons. And he has applied for the Nova Scotia nominee program in February of 2024 under the tourism sector. And I understand there's been a bit of a stop on that particular sector. And he was told, and I was told when I called, that it would probably be about 6 months. But it's 9 months. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I stopped at Tim Hortons in Bureaux, and there he was. And along with probably 10 other employees who were international students. And these students are really keeping our economy going in Cape Breton. And so my question is there an update as to when this program will start enrolling people? Because we're going to lose them to other jurisdictions. And I know it's all supply and demand, but just if we can get an update on that. Thank you.
Deputy Czapalay.
Thank you for the question, and we do appreciate that we have many workers here who would like some clarity on their situation. And for the provincial nominee program, we're in a situation where we get an allocation from the federal government every year, and it's upon us to manage that allocation appropriately so that we have the skilled workers in Nova Scotia that we need to do key pieces of work. So what we noticed in the first few months of 2024 is that we were flooded with applications from the service and hospitality sector. And hundreds and hundreds of applications. We have a priority in terms of admitting people in the healthcare sector and admitting construction workers, for the reasons I noted in my opening remarks. So what we did is we said to people in hospitality, we've already admitted more than we have in previous years, this year, in the first few months. So we're going to pause. We're going to prioritize healthcare workers and construction workers, and then we'll reevaluate in the fall. And by reevaluate in the fall, that means will the federal government be interested in providing us with more allocation than they've already given us, and then when we get that new allocation, how will we divide it up? And so we'll have to have a conversation internally about that and what the best way forward is for Nova Scotia. But right now we're prioritizing healthcare workers and construction workers.
MLA Tilley for a follow-up.
Yeah, that's certainly understandable that we're prioritizing in the areas that we need, but if we don't look at this area, we may not have people to serve the people that we're bringing in the other areas. My question, I guess the follow-up question would be, have we had an ask to the federal government for increased allocation, and how much have we asked for? Thank you.
Deputy Czapalay.
So historically, Nova Scotia does use its entire allocation. Just the last few years we've done that, and we have asked the federal government for it. The additional space comes from other jurisdictions who say we're not going to use all our space this year, so it's still a little early to make that request because the other jurisdictions won't be giving up their space right now. So usually our ask is in later fall.
Thank you. MLA Diwali.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deputy, I just want to give you a little bit of maybe bad news, but I'm very grateful for your response for previous of my colleagues. After my graduation, which was actually 24 years ago, I worked that field only 6 months, and I walk away because it was not welcoming place. And it's something until today sits in my heart, but I'm grateful hearing your testimony, how much progress we made to make workplace safe and inclusive. But this is what happened, what I have learned, which is unfortunately. But my question is a question that I often receive through my constituents, which is actually pertaining for the youth unemployment, specifically the youth that were born in here and raised here. And we know we have a lot of skilled workers in Nova Scotia, but also this is our next generation. And there was a lot of jobs, specifically for the summer, that used to allow them part of their growth and to gain skills, social skills, a little bit of income that they don't have to bother their parents to ask a change here and there. What I'm wondering, within your department and your leadership, what are the plans that are being look for the youth unemployment? Thank you.
Deputy Czapalay.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience, and I'm very sorry that you had that experience, MLA Dually. It does touch my heart that you would yourself encounter a workplace that wasn't welcoming, and I really feel like Nova Scotians have got to open their hearts and their workplaces and their communities. We have Minister Balser has an immigration roundtable, and it's staffed by newcomers and people with all kinds of immigrant experiences, whether they've been here like yourself for quite a long time or just newly arrived. And one of the people at the roundtable said that Nova Scotians are friendly, but not a friend. Not a friend. So did you have a friend in that situation come forward and say, don't speak to my friend that way? You know, that's when Nova Scotians have got to step up and play that role of a friend, whether it's at home or at work. So summer skills job. Hopefully everyone is happy with their summer skills allocation, and their students and their constituencies all found jobs in museums and whatnot. That job program continues to be offered, and it does provide valuable experience for young people to connect to jobs in their field, in their communities. So that program is what it is. It's run for years. My very first opportunity when I came to government, someone said, good news, Ava, you're going to manage the summer skills program this summer. That's why I'm smiling, because I know what it's like. But there are other programs too, really important programs that connect students to work. When they're in school, for example, we fund the co-op incentives program. So students who are doing co-op work as part of their work term, they can get work experience, practical work experience as part of that. And then, of course, graduate to opportunities, which incentivizes employers to accept new graduates and give them important work skills right away. I'd like to be able to ask Mrs. Weatherdon if she could comment on these, since these programs are in her department.
Mrs. Weatherdon.
I think it's worth me maybe touching on the first point around welcoming workplaces. As a young, I don't know what definition we're using, so I'll just stick with young, Black woman working today in Nova Scotia by way of Ontario. I think we do know, and I've spent over a decade in equity and inclusion work, previously as the ED of Equity and Belonging with this department. And so we do know that these issues are both structural, systemic, and otherwise. And so I often say that when we're talking about whether it's sexism or sexual violence or racism or Islamophobia, that none of the folks who inflict these on others fall from the sky or coming from another planet. But they're people we're married to, people we're raising, people we know, and people we work with. And so it really is everyone's responsibility to make sure that we continue to uphold the kind of Nova Scotia we want, one where people are safe. And by safety, I just don't mean physically, but that people are not inflicted psychologically or otherwise, and that we continue to uphold the values that have made this province strong, ones that led to the attraction of people like myself from other places. And so it really is all of our work. And we also support that through our WIPC funding. We fund employers to be able to train their people to really create and work together to make sure that their workplaces are safe for all equity-deserving people, that we also make sure that we have our ideas, fundamentals that we provide to employees and employers. We're working through micro-credentials, investing in EDI training there, and so much more. But the question around youth, I think, is also really important to us. The Graduate Opportunity Program has about 200 to 300 graduates that take part in that program each year, and we're seeing about an 83% retention rate, that at the end of those 2 years, they're either still with the employer or have moved on to another Nova Scotia employer. So that's one of our highest successes as well. Our co-op incentive program sees about 800 to 900 placements funded annually, and certainly has seen a significant investment from the department in that as well. And then we have around 800 skill placements that are funded annually, and we've provided since 2021, 2022, around $8 million in funding in that. So these are some examples, and we continue to work with our other parts of our department and other departments to really think about how we're supporting youth to attach to the workforce and to stay in and get those experiences. So we have partnerships with Cove, with Matrix, with Empower, and so many others to make sure that it's not just youth in general, but also equity-deserving youth who have specific barriers that they need to overcome, that we're addressing those barriers because they are unique and they're different than perhaps straight cis white youth who might not have those same experiences. So really taking an equity lens to this is crucial for us to make sure that they're not just getting opportunities one year but not the next, but that we're really attaching them in a way that is permanent, that is safe, and also prepares them for all the things that come with being in the workplace, the good things, but also the challenges as well, and supporting them through that.
Thank you very much. MLA Young.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to get back to skilled trades again, it's something I spent a lifetime in. Just for NSCC, like, how do you prioritize the skilled trades programs that would receive additional seats? So is it student demand? Would it be more of industry demand? And I guess just a quick part two of that is, like, are you working directly with the industries today for demand or projected demand? Could you just enlighten me?
Mr. Lafford.
Yes, we're, as part of our business, we do have annual industry meetings where we do, that's one of the most key questions is, what is the demand coming forward for all the occupations that are connected to your businesses or companies or whatever? And so the answer to that question is it's with industry that we're trying to understand what the demand is there. If we have a bunch of students that are interested in a particular program that doesn't have employment on the other end for us or for them, that's a problem for us. So that's how, well, like I mentioned earlier, we're constantly evolving our program mix to meet that industry demand of what the numbers are needed and in what locations around the province geographically. You know, we might pull one program from one campus in one part of the province to open up a section in another part of the province that's asking for the exact same workers, but there's no demand in one part, but there's a large enough demand in the other. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lafford. Our next three questions will come from MLA Bureaux, MLA Sheehy-Richard, and then MLA Tilley. MLA Bureaux.
Thank you. Ms. Czapalay, I wanted to ask about the part of recruitment and retention of skilled tradespeople that has to do with labor standards. You know, it is everybody knows there's no overtime rules for apprentices, and it's pretty commonly known that we are we're the worst province in the country in terms of how many hours you have to work before you get overtime. And then, in construction, there are the rules where there's no overtime until you've got, I think, over 110 hours in 2 weeks. So I'm thinking, is there thinking in the department, I wanted to ask, that if we were to get ourselves in Nova Scotia into a more competitive position, it'd be relative to the rest of the country, with labour standards, particularly on the question of overtime, might this put us in a better place from the point of view of drawing skilled tradespeople to the province?
That's for Deputy Czapalay, correct?
Yes, please.
Deputy Czapalay.
Thank you for the question. Initially, I thought you were going to be asking about newcomers from outside of Canada, but then the last part of your question seemed like attracting people from rest of Canada.
So maybe what I'll do, I'll ask MLA Bureaux to just clarify his question. and then we'll know where exactly.
Yes, yes, I'm speaking about within the country, that particularly when it comes to do with overtime, our labor standards don't compare very favorably. This could be a factor in people staying, people coming in skilled trades in the province. I wonder, is the department thinking about this as something that Nova Scotia needs to improve from the point of view of recruitment and retention?
Deputy Czapalay.
Thank you very much. Certainly, in terms of attracting people from elsewhere in Canada to work here, we want people to have a good experience. Generally, people work with their employer to understand things like overtime and compensation and those kinds of things. And I would say that having that clarity would be important. Usually, I would think that compensation is something that would take place outside of legislation, that the employer and the employee work together to come up with an agreement. What we can do to attract and retain workers, I feel, is exactly what we've been talking about this afternoon, which is to create the welcoming and safe work environment. The employers have got to offer the competitive wages and working conditions to supplement that piece.
And Liberal for a follow-up.
Well, and yet it is true that the government has a role in establishing the floor. And that the floor does have an effect on what happens in the overall labor market. So that what I'm asking is does the department see any potential role in raising the floor, particularly as to do with overtime, on labor standards, for improving our position on recruitment and retention of skilled people?
Deputy Czapalay.
So I'm trying to reflect, in my 3 years, I don't think I've ever seen a piece of correspondence related to overtime complaints, to be honest with you. I feel as though we have to work together to ensure, that the commonality is safe and welcoming workplaces and that employees are well treated, that they know what to expect, but they have to work out the arrangements with their employer.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I want to go on a little different area now because all this stuff really interests me, and probably because I have two kids, one that is in the trades and one that's going to write his first block in November. He got accepted, so he's ready for that. So now you piqued my interest in the pilot program with the 34 seats of eligible students and a CC. So in January, they can go in February into the apprenticeship program, if I have that right, that starts in February. So I guess my question is, how does NSCC plan to integrate these high school seniors into the pre-apprenticeship program in February? And I guess, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of explaining to me the difference between the direct entry that my son did at a grade 12 and this new pilot program with the 34.
I'll go to Mr. Bureaux, and then I'll get you direct from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the pilot program that we're beginning in February was a result of an analysis of their various school zones in the province in identifying higher numbers than I thought of students who were grade 12 complete by February and then waited until June to walk across the stage, and there was a gap. So we thought we could fill that gap. We had an idea that we could fill that gap by offering a pilot program to see if they could come to us prior to receiving their high school diploma officially. And that seemed to be a great idea. We'll see. And what that program will allow us to do is have have an individual or individuals come, study their first year. They can go on to their second year if they wish and get year 1 or year 2 towards their apprenticeship training. The direct entry, of course, is, as the deputy mentioned, that they wouldn't attend NSCC for their pre-apprenticeship training, but they would enter the workforce and receive their block training, years 1 through 4, most likely at NSCC. So it's the entry point that's different between between direct entry and coming to us. The program in February is one of those programs that we call an off-cycle program. And I mentioned earlier that the implicit contract with learners writ large is changing, shorter, faster, just in time. But the model of programs all beginning on September the 3rd and ending next June, that model, which was based on the agrarian economy of 200 years ago, is no longer a model or a timeline that we have to abide by. So I would say we are progressively pursuing start dates at NSCC that's beyond September 3rd, which makes an interesting way for us to count our students, because quite often we count students coming to NSCC on September the 30th, but we have programs starting on October the 1st. So it's a different way that we need to count who's coming to the college. Mr. Chair, I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. And any follow-up quickly on the issue you shared?
No, but now I can see how that's going to be such an asset, because I mean a lot of the kids is like get in, get done, get out, right? So we do have a lot of kids that finish in January, and especially, so that's great. Let's hope we can keep tripling that.
Okay, thank you very much. MLA Tilley.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a question for the folks at NSCC. So we know that underrepresented groups face many barriers to entering the workforce. So what is NSCC doing to help remove some of those barriers for underrepresented groups into the workforce?
Mr. Bureaux.
This is such an important topic, and I fundamentally have given a large part of my life to education, because I believe it starts with education. And I believe it starts with having our learners understand what their rights are and the ability for them to demand a different work environment. So I'm proud that our EDI programming at NSCC hopefully equips our graduates to understand their rights and know what avenues they have to pursue if they are not facing a safe environment. The second thing that I would say is that relationship with industry is critical. A primary example that I've referred to before, but I'm so proud of them, is the relationship that we have with Irving Shipbuilding, for example. And they've taken a very progressive approach called a cohort approach, where we have individuals from diverse communities who have unique learning pathways, and we try to construct a learning work environment that's most conducive to success. If it's an Indigenous cohort, we highly recommend and endorse elders to be part of the learning journey, as an example. If it's a cohort of single moms on social assistance, daycare becomes critically important. If it's a person coming from a poverty-stricken environment, we work with unions and industry partners to make sure that they have all the tools that they need to be successful. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that our systems are in need of an update. So when we work with our industry partners, it's also, do we have the policies in place to make sure that people aren't systemically facing racism? Do the policies, do the cultural norms allow for a person to be safe? So, Mr. Tilley, to answer your question, what are we doing? It's a broad-based approach, starting with the individual, working with industry partners, and making sure that together we make sure that the stories that we've heard in the past simply do not happen in the future.
Thank you very much. We'll go to MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is to the department. I've got some local businesses that have been able to access some of the programming for retraining and enhancing its automotive. So I'm just wondering, what is available for the employees or the employers to help their employees, and how well do we advertise it so they know? Looks like Mrs. Weatherdon.
I'll wait for direction.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to Mrs. Weatherdon.
So we have a number of programs through our Workplace Initiatives team. We have our Workplace Innovation and Productive Skills Incentive that helps employers to access training to remain productive and competitive. Some of that, an example includes our 8 sector councils that have projects engaging with training their employees to understand HR promising practices. That's just one example. And that's a WIPC program is very utilized by employers that we partner with and that we work with. A lot of this is making sure that employers know what's available to them and how to access them and working with them. So our industry partners are key to this as well. So really making sure that we continue to stay connected with our industry partners so that they can also let their members know what is available to them. We have the Workplace Education Initiative that allows employers and their workers to be successful. And so this includes accessing training needs to either assess or develop plans to develop and meet the gaps that may exist in their workplace. So anything related to EDIs we've been talking about, or HR related pieces, or even putting together reporting mechanisms for when issues arrive, and any other such supports. It's also the pathway that we're able to assess what employers need, and if those needs are outside of what we're able to provide, we also do work with our partners to connect them with other departments or other partners that we might be able to have more of a collaborative approach. Those are just some of the 2 main areas that we are connecting with employers, but we also meet regularly with our industry partners as well through our business workforce consultants who have regular connects with employer partners to assess and understand what their business workforce HR issues are and how to work together to address them.
Thank you. Emily McDonald for a quick follow-up.
Yeah, no preamble this time, Mr. Chair. What's the 8 sectors you said? You said the 8 sectors. What are they?
Yeah, I don't have a full breakdown.
Oh, so that's okay. Mrs. Weatherdon.
Sorry, I don't have a full breakdown of them right now, but one of the ones that we do work with is Association of Industry Sector Councils, and which includes construction. I mean, so many that we do connect with quite regularly.
Yes, through the clerk, if you could get that. Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Weatherden. MLA Hanson, and then MLA Young, and then MLA Duwally. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'll be asking everybody to be mindful of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is to the deputy. My colleague was speaking about the Labor Standards Code, and he was speaking about apprentices. So apprentices are exempt from overtime rules, and those working in construction are not eligible for overtime pay unless they work 110 hours in a 2-week period. So can you please explain the rationale for these inequalities in labor standards?
Deputy Czapalay.
I think it would be best if I follow up through the clerk.
Okay. Is there, so, I'll even give you another question right now. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We know that Nova Scotia workers also work the longest regular work week across the country at 48 hours before being eligible for overtime pay. Wondering why Nova Scotia is falling behind, or are we looking at making changes to that?
Deputy Czapalay.
I think I'll follow up through the clerk on that one as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. MLA Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to LSI, and it's about recognizing skills or transferable skills. I'm just wondering, what are some things that the department may be doing that encourages to recognize transferable skills between trades, maybe, to help get dual certification, something along those lines?
Deputy Czapalay.
Thank you for the question, and certainly recognizing that that typically people do acquire a lot of transferable skills, and that those skills do have relevance to other work, and we certainly don't want someone with a variety of skills to have those not recognized when they change jobs, whether they're a newcomer or whether they're someone who's been working in Nova Scotia for their entire career. And so thinking of apprenticeship, of course, people have always been allowed to challenge exams if they can demonstrate that they've worked a certain number of hours, and have in a trade they can challenge an exam and demonstrate through that challenge that they have the skills that they need to advance to the next level. So that's always been in place. In terms of we've always been able to work with colleagues like NSCC and the post-secondary sector. Certainly, they've often looked at advanced standing and recognizing skills between NSCC and the universities through agreements has always been there. And working, as I mentioned already, the program where people can demonstrate skills. If they, for example, don't have the paperwork necessary to show that they have training and skills from another country, they can demonstrate those skills here. And through an employer, the employer can vouch for their skills.
Thank you. MLA Duale.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My question will be the President. I just want to let you know, as a committee, we're not here only to critique, but also we're here to help you. And my question is here. I know for NSCC, it's a place of innovation and ideas. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas. What I'd like to know, as a member of the opposition party, is there anything that you have asked the government that you're not getting, that we need to advocate for you? Thank you.
Mr. Bureaux.
One of the biggest areas of concern for us right now in terms of the success of our students is housing. We're an institution with 13 locations around the province with an e-campus. Those campuses are in every corner of the province. A number of years ago, of the 13 campuses, we had one with a residence. It was in Truro. And we're on course to have 10. So I'm very pleased with that progress. So if that wasn't happening, I'd have a concern. But that's happening well. So I'm very pleased with the response on housing. The second major area that we're working with our government partners on right now is wait lists. And the topic has come up today, and there's a very keen interest through our ministry to get that wait list down in the appropriate places, and we're being supported there. I'm not skirting the question. It's at the current moment, there is nothing that is urgently affecting the quality of teaching and learning at NSCC that's not being addressed. Yeah.
Thank you. And Duale, any quick follow-up?
I'm sure
Just be quick,
the clock will not allow me,
All
but
right.
I will let you out of the hook.
Okay, so we will now go to MLA Sheehy Richard.
Oh, okay. What I was going to ask, I think, was when we talk about adapting and, you know, all this new change in solar and wind and offshore wind and all of that, I think my question was, what are you doing to adapt programs for the renewables? You know, I've people reaching out already, like, I want to get involved in wind production or solar production, or, you know, how do I get credentialed, I guess, or trained in that?
Mr. Lafford.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have as far as solar goes, we have the largest, most comprehensive set of micro-credentials in the country of any college. So we've got 5 micro-credentials there, even as much onto the inspection of the panels themselves using drones and things like that. So we've really, I feel personally that we've exhausted sort of that realm of solar. We're also working on a wind program, which with our eyes towards offshore wind. We also have a couple of programs that we currently have that have wind trainers in those labs. So we're able to prepare students for the wind industry now, but looking to do it in a more fulsome way over the next few years. We also have what some folks and Mr. Tilley would remember, power engineering labs in a couple of places across the province. Those labs are excellently suited for hydrogen production. So we are also we have already turned our heads towards that. And in fact, last year we won a national award for hydrogen micro-credentials that we put together from the Hydrogen Alliance out of Edmonton, Alberta. So I would say we're punching above our weight for what we're seeing right now as the renewable energy sector, and we're constantly having conversations with Nova Scotia Power around their operations going away from coal and gas and moving into more renewables and trying to balance our programming around that as well.
Thank you very much. And MLA McDonald, you have the floor with about 2.5 minutes to go.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, to NSCC, so I mean, I know we've touched on this a couple times, but the students that, and I always love saying the millions watching us, they're wondering, like, you know, the ones that are in demand, when can they start seeing the wait lists and the expansion of those? So I'm going to give you a chance, since I kind of beat you up a little bit at the beginning, to wind up explaining, like, when are they going to be able to see them, to get, like, you'll be able to explain, like, what they're doing, how they're going to see it.
Mr. Bureaux.
I would say they're seeing it now. We've begun to offer new programs. If you look at the programming at NSCC, it's like a pie chart. And that pie chart is comprised of health programs, trades programs, business programs, and the proportions of those sizes of pieces of pies are always moving and changing. So right now, 5 years ago, it was all things IT. So we had to really redirect our resources to provide more opportunities for the IT sector. Well, that market is cooling down a little bit right now, and now we're moving a lot of resources over to the trades or the skilled professionals.
Thank you.
To the skilled professionals. So I would say that they're seeing that as we speak, that this program, the programs that we're offering this fall has been a result of that being rotated. Again, we're working very closely with our ministry right now to look at that wait list, to mine it, to see who truly is on it, and look at starting up programs that we may have next February. There's a couple options that we hopefully will be announcing this fall that we can have people come off. So that's a constant. Will we ever have a situation where people are not on a wait list? I don't think so. And one of the reasons why is that we allow students, when they apply, applicants when they apply, to have up to 3 choices. They have more than one choice. So they may wish to apply for Program A and Program B and be placed on a wait list and take another program. So that wait list, the goal should not be to get it to 0. It should be to match student demand with industry demand and make that match as exquisite as possible. That's the goal.
And look at that. Thank you, Mr. Bureau. 2:45, right on the button. As I said earlier, we probably could go till 3:45 with questions here today, but thank you all for coming this afternoon, and it was a great conversation. I'd like to give our guests an opportunity to make a closing statement before we end our meeting. Maybe I'll go the opposite direction this time, and I'll begin with Mr. Bureau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It'll be short and sweet. I do so appreciate the interest of all members in what we're doing here at the Nova Scotia Community College. We are proud to be a pan-provincial college system. We have a presence, I'm sure, in each one of your constituencies, and we know how important it is to your communities and the families who live in your constituencies. I'm very proud also of the thought leaders that designed the modern college of NSCC back in the late 1990s. And they had the foresight to create a mission for our organization that had a duality. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're here to build the economy and quality of life of Nova Scotia. A duality that doesn't exist in most colleges, which are primarily focused on building the economy in their local areas. And because of that duality, the topic of equity, diversity, inclusion, the topic of making sure that we support safe and inviting workplaces, that's quality of life. And when you bring those two imperatives together, prosperity, hopefully, will be there for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bureau. And Deputy Czapalay.
Well, thank you very much, and I really enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you for your questions. Also, thank you to my colleague, Shakira Weatherdon, for her first appearance here. I just want to, I hope that our commitment to attraction and retention of skilled workers has been conveyed to you today. We are very focused on removing barriers for everyone so that they can find work here and they can settle well here, and if they are from here, that they stay here. and that they connect to jobs and to the training that eventually will lead to jobs. So we're not only focused on expanding a system and hoping for status quo, we're focused on expanding a system that speaks to everyone and welcomes everyone who cares to participate. And so I just also want to take this opportunity to thank our significant partner, NSCC, President Bureaux and Vice President Lafford, and their teams for all their support and collaboration as we work with industry, NSCC, post-secondary unions and associations. This is very much a collaborative process, and we're working together. I want you to be assured of that so that we can find the right response for Nova Scotia so that people continue to find work here and settle well and attach to work. Thank you.
So once again, thank you to all of our guests. Thank you for the afternoon here. We will now take a 3-minute recess to allow our guests to leave, and then our committee will come back for just a bit of brief committee business. So meeting in recess. Order. I'd like to ask all our committee members to return to their chairs, and we will just attend to a bit of our committee business. The only committee business that shows up here for me is correspondence that was received on August 12th, a letter from, or was sent on August 12th, a letter from MLA Elizabeth Smith McCrossan concerning vacancies on the Cumberland Library Board. Assuming everybody's received that, is there any discussion? All right, we acknowledge that we've received the letter, and we'll go from there. Is there any other business?
I just have a quick question.
MLA Hanson?
I just have a quick question based on when we table that letter. Is it now the responsibility of I don't know, the department or somebody to kind of do outreach and kind of gain more information for the library board? I just want to clarify. I don't know how the process works.
I think I think we'll just basically the clerk and I will just craft a response saying we received your letter and it was brought up at the committee.
I did that on receipt.
You did that on receipt, so it's been received, and she was been notified that we've received the letter. Yep, that's why we brought up a committee business here. MLA Duale?
Yeah, I'm just, my question is, we received for this letter, and we read what it is. Are we responding whether, you know, what she's looking for is doable, is feasible or not, or we just...
Well, there's no direction from the committee to do anything, so we just discussed it and was tabled that it was received. MLA Tilley?
So I guess, is it this committee that appoints members to that board?
No.
No? So how do members get appointed to that board?
So I'm going to let the clerk answer the question. Ms. Kavanaugh.
The minister of each department makes the nominations. This committee just provides one of several levels of approval to those appointments. So we can't address any appointment that isn't sent to us from the department.
Emily McDonald.
And just a point of clarification, that's why you'll notice that in all my motions, I move to recommend, and we all vote to recommend it. We actually don't appoint anybody. We recommend them, and then that's done. That's why, and actually it was the previous Ledge Council, Mr. Hebb, that actually reminded me that we're actually supposed to recommend, because we actually don't appoint them, we just recommend it. So I just figured I'd let you know that, Emily Tilley.
So with that, no other committee business. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October the 1st, and it will be for appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions. With the House potentially sitting still, it was decided that we would just go with no witnesses for that day and just have appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions. So with that being said, no other business? Not 10.
No,
10 a.m. 10 a.m. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.